Pro-Osc was built with the samples of raw oscillators from one of our favorite hardware synthesizers. We wanted to make an easy-to-understand instrument that still has elements of a classic analog synthesizer. We designed Pro-Osc with a main performance page and 5 different navigation tabs for more in-depth control of your sound. Let's take a closer look at the main page, and we can go through each tab in a moment. Pro-Osc has 3 oscillators to build up your sound source. Here, you have control to pick and choose over 14 different wave shapes. You also have individual pitch controls and panning per oscillator. Let's unmute the other 2 oscillators, pan them to each side, and listen as we drag the pitch up and down to give a natural chorus effect. The attack, release, and cutoff are always visible on the main page for easy access to design and perform your sound. Now let's go through the navigation tabs to hear all the different sound design possibilities within Pro-Osc. Let's start with the envelope and cutoff control page. The attack curve changes the shape of the attack from a smooth exponential fade-in to a logarithmic rise. Keep in mind, if the attack up on the main page is set to 0, the curve shape will have no effect. The decay happens after the attack and functions as you would expect. Pro-Osc does have a separate amplitude and cutoff envelope, but they both share the attack, decay, and release. The exception is the sustain. The amp sustain will control how loud the sound will be after the decay. While the cut sustain will control how much the cutoff will close after the decay. Keep in mind, the envelope to cutoff must be engaged to hear the effects of the cutoff envelope. Here, you can change the mode between polyphonic, monophonic, or mono legato. On the right side, you have your cutoff controls. Click on the filter type to select between 4 different low-pass filters and 1 bandpass filter. We program the resonance to reach its max peak right before self-oscillating, so you can feel safe to push the limit on this one. The bell will turn red as a warning that you're getting a strong resonant peak. Velocity to cutoff adjusts the amount the velocity will increase the cutoff frequency. The envelope to cutoff will adjust how much the cutoff envelope will open up the filter. You also have the option to set its key tracking sensitivity. Key tracking will change how much the filter opens, depending on how high you play on the keyboard. The next page is our reverb and effects section. On the left side, we have 15 different reverbs. On the right side, we have 15 different effects. These convolution types are all curated from some of our favorite outboard reverbs and Eurorack effects. The amount knob will control how much the dry signal is sent to the reverb and effect. The size knob will control the size and speed of the convolution type, and pre-delay will control how long it will take to hear the onset of the reverb or effect before the dry signal is heard. The low and high cut scissors will cut out the low or high frequencies of the reverb and effects to shape their response. Just a heads up, convolution is a powerful effect and will need to recalculate when you change the size, pre-delay, or the low and high cut while playing. This will stop any audio you have currently going through them. Moving forward to the next page, we have the cutoff and mod wheel controls. Here, you can click to change through the cutoff LFO shapes. The amount slider will control how much the cutoff is modulated by the LFO. The fade-in controls the time delayed before the cutoff LFO kicks in. The speed knob controls the speed of the cutoff LFO. The drift will randomly change the speed of the cutoff LFO per oscillator. This will add a bit of randomization and separation between each selected oscillator. On the right side, we have the mod wheel controls. This will let you map many different parameters to your external MIDI device's mod wheel. Here you can add one or all of these parameters at varying amounts. The vibrato has a range from 0% to 500%, so you can get extreme with your pitch modulation. In addition to the mod wheel control page, almost any parameter on Pro-Osc can be MIDI mapped by right-clicking on its knob or slider. The next page is the stepped sequencer. The Pro-Osc stepped sequencer is different from a typical step sequencer because it only takes a step when a note is received. This adds another layer of variation to your melodies and chords by changing the loaded wave shape per note. Here, you can turn on and off the stepped sequencer. And with the 3 checkboxes, you can select which OSCs will be affected by the stepped sequencer. Reset is how we choose when the stepped sequencer goes back to 1. When reset is set to never, each note played will take a new step. When reset is set to no keys held, it makes it so the first note played is always step 1. Steps changes the max amount of steps it will take before going back to 1. Try different step amounts while arpeggiating to get unique variations of rhythms. Clicking the Random OSC button will randomly select wave shapes for each of the 6 steps. Click the wave shape name underneath each step to select a specific wave. Lastly, we get to the vibrato and miscellaneous control page. Vibrato modulates the pitch of the 3 oscillators, and the amount slider will control how much pitch modulation will occur. The speed controls how fast the vibrato will move. And fade-in controls the time delayed before the vibrato kicks in. We created the miscellaneous page as an additional set of controls to add some final touches to shape your sound. The velocity to volume slider will affect how much the note velocity will have on the instrument's volume. The key glide slider will increase or decrease the amount of time it takes for the pitch to reach the next new note that is played. This will work in both monophonic or polyphonic voice modes. Pitch slop controls the amount of pitch drift between the oscillators. This can give a vintage feeling of older analog synths to a completely unpredictable sound. Pan spread is the amount of random panning per voice. And finally, you have the option to choose your pitch wheel range. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoy and make some beautiful music with Pro-Osc. As always, and with love, Clay and Kelsey Instruments.